be a clumsy student of something. Embrace the ambiguity of learning and all that it cultivates in you, and that will be transferable into your daily work.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the KTS Success Factor podcast for women, where we talk about challenges senior female leaders face in being happy and successful at work. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah E. Brown. My guest today is Natalie Nixon. She is president of Figure 8 Thinking, a consulting firm that emboldens organizations to apply creativity for transformative business results. A global speaker and regular contributor to Inc. on creativity and the future of work, she is also the editor of Strategic Design Thinking, Innovation in Products, Services, Experiences, and Beyond. She holds a PhD in Design Management from the University of Westminster in London, and a BA in Anthropology and Africana Studies from Vassar College, and lives in her hometown of Philadelphia. Her new book, which has just been released, is The Creativity Leap: Unleash Curiosity, Improvisation, and Intuition at Work. Welcome, Natalie. I'm delighted to have you.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
I am too. So I have a clue based on what I just read, but tell me what the biggest challenge is you help female leaders face in business today, and what might be the symptoms of that challenge?
Well, when we're talking about women in leadership, a lot of the challenges I see are in really shifting paradigms and converting what may initially appear as a marginal status, converted into something that's really optimal. So, for example, I am an African-American woman, and I recall that in my 20s, I really started to get very resentful of consistently being the only one or one of a few in the room. And I entered my 30s and I realized, hang on, this is actually an asset. And that might have been in part because by then I was working for a division of the limited brands. I was living and working abroad in Sri Lanka and in Portugal, traveled throughout Asia, working in global fashion sourcing, and learned a ton from women in leadership in Southeastern Asia that I saw. And so by my 30s, I actually understood that because I am a woman, because I am an African-American woman, I actually have, out of necessity, had to develop an incredible amount of EQ, political savvy, and an ability to read a room within the first minute, to understand power dynamics, to understand the best way through collaboration to get things done. So that's what I mean when I say that for me, being a woman in leadership is not about being like the guys, but it's really about optimizing and accentuating what may be a perceived weakness and identifying it as an asset.
Very good. And what's the biggest mistake your clients make before they start working with you?
So I'm a creativity strategist, and what that means is I advise leaders on how to apply creativity in order to get to transformative business results. In my work, I help organizations and individuals see that creativity isn't a fuzzy woo-woo addendum, but there actually is a solid, bold line that we can draw between creativity, applying creativity, and business ROI. So one of the mistakes that organizations often make before working with me is that they are immersed in what I call innovation churn. They are consumed with developing cultures of innovation, but they actually don't know what innovation means, or they've got a lot of different definitions and perceptions of innovation swirling around. So what I help them to do is to pause, take a step back, and actually start with creativity, because creativity is the engine for innovation.
And what would be the number one free and actionable tip you can give my audience to understand and address this challenge now?
Well, I'll give you two tips, one for individuals and one for organizations. So for individuals who are trying to become more creative, and let me also just take a step back and define creativity for
Thank
your
you. I
audience.
was going to ask that next. Keep
Sure.
going. Yeah. Mhm.
Sure. So in my book, The Creativity Leap, Unleash Curiosity, Improvisation, and Intuition at Work, it's a product of about 4 years of research and practice and a lot of thinking about how to democratize creativity, how to make it more accessible. Because in my view, we have ghettoized creativity in the arts.
Mm.
So I can't tell you how frustrated I will get when I hear a person mutter to themselves, oh, I'm not a creative type because I can't fill in the blank, paint,
Mhm.
draw, dance, sing, right? So artists are excellent at wrangling with the discomfort of ambiguity. And they are also excellent at dedicating time and space for the wonder that I talk about. So I define creativity as our capacity to toggle between wonder and rigor to solve problems. So creativity isn't just something that you randomly pull out of your armpit. It requires an incredible amount of rigor, which is the discipline, incessant practice, time on task, showing up over and over again. It's often very solitary work. There's nothing sexy about it. And then it also requires the wonder. And
Mm.
wonder is awe, audacity, asking humongous what if questions and big blue sky questions. So it's not about either or, it's about getting really agile and toggling between the two. So my tip for individuals is that in order to optimize creativity in your life and in your work is you've got to become a clumsy student of something. In our society, in American culture, we tend to reward mastery and deep specialization. The thing is, the greatest masters are also really wonderful tinkerers. They are
Mm.
experimenters. And so I really advise that we have some avocation outside of our work where we are a student, where we are learning. Because when you're in a learning mode, you have to have a really good sense of humor about yourself. You're making mistakes all over the place. You're constantly having to employ what I call the 3 I's. So the other part of my creativity framework is the 3 I framework, which include inquiry, improvisation, and intuition. So when we are clumsy students, so for example, right now I'm a clumsy student of the tango and the foxtrot.
Mm.
So I'm constantly asking and reframing questions so I get clarity on something. That's the inquiry part. I must be improvisational, which is to say that I must be
Mm.
adaptive. I must go with the flow of the answer emerging to me. It's not going to come right away. It's not going to be crystal clear, and I have to sit with that. And I also must use my intuition to make decisions. Intuition is something that I define as pattern recognition. So my tip for individuals is be a clumsy student of something. Embrace the ambiguity of learning and all that it cultivates in you, and that will be transferable into your daily work. For organizations, my tip is to embrace what Jerry Hirschberg, who used to be the head of design for Nissan International, he called it creative abrasion. So Jerry Hirschberg, whenever he was working on design challenge, he would insist that people from sales and finance and manufacturing also be part of the team. He understood that friction, which is something that most of us run away from, the ending result of friction is energy. And so he really embraced the abrasion and the friction that results when we have to work with people who have different skills from us, who approach problems differently. We have to unpack our jargon. We have to learn something new. So there's a learning curve initially, but ultimately, there's something I write in my book where I write that the more diverse the inputs, the more innovative the output. So it's
Mm.
absolutely a win-win. So for organizations, they have to build cognitively diverse teams. They have to hire for creativity, they've got to cultivate it, and they have to sustain creativity.
So give me that sentence again. The more diverse the input, the more what?
Right. So in my book, The Creativity Leap, I
Right.
write that the more diverse the inputs, the more innovative the output.
Interesting.
Thank you.
I really like that. That's a a takeaway message there. So what's a free, valuable resource you can share with the women who are listening to us today to help them understand this challenge better?
Sure. If they go to my website, which is figure8thinking.com, that's FIGURE, the number 8 thinking.com, they will immediately see on the upper banner an opportunity to download a free sample chapter of my book.
Oh, cool.
And in that first introduction and chapter, they will get access to some of the visuals that I refer to. They'll also see on my website a lot of awesome content and the opportunity to opt into my newsletter. So I would recommend that they download that chapter. And if they are intrigued, then they should go ahead and buy a copy of The Creativity Leap. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and at your local bookseller in paperback, on Audible, and on Kindle.
Terrific. So Natalie, what's one question that I should have asked you that will help my audience take action to address this challenge? And then would you please answer the question?
Sure. Maybe it's kind of related to a course that I'm going to be launching in a couple of months. So I think the question that I really have been very interested in of late is, how do we get unstuck? And while my consulting practice has been on the level of helping organizations, I now am expanding my business offering to also help individuals, and really with this question of getting unstuck. So I'll be launching an online creativity course really with that mission in mind. It's the course will be a companion piece to the book. And one of the reasons that we get unstuck is by practicing wonder and rigor. And I mean that in very intentional ways. So I'll give you 2 short examples. One of the ways that I routinely practice wonder to help me get unstuck is I literally take daydream breaks. So wonder is about awe, audacity, pausing, asking blue sky questions. And so I will set my timer to 5 minutes. I will go outside and sit on the steps. I'm from Philly, so we're a big front step culture. And I'll just daydream, looking up at the clouds. And if it's cold outside, I'll do that standing by a window. So that's what I mean by one of the tips you can use to start to get unstuck. It's really important to allow your brain to not only be focused on the intense, deeply focused work that's in the frontal lobe, but also for the neural synapses to be rewired for that kind of marination of ideas that's required for breakthrough ideas. And for rigor, I also, again, using a timer, I recommend that you set a timer for 20 minutes. You turn off the phone, you turn off any music in the background, you turn off any alerts and notifications. And for me, because I'm a writer as well, I will do what I call a rigor sprint. And I will do heads down work on whatever the topic is that I need to be really deeply focused on. And 20 minutes doesn't seem like a lot of time, but if you do that every day, you look up at the end of the week and you actually have something quite actionable that you can then deploy.
Very cool. Natalie, thank you so much for being my guest today.
You're welcome. Nice to meet you, Sarah.
Thanks for listening to the KTS Success Factor podcast for women. If you like what you are hearing, please go to iTunes to subscribe, rate us, and leave a review. And if you would like more information on how we can help women in your organization to thrive, then go to www.sarahebrown.com. You can sign up for our newsletter, read show notes, and learn more about our podcast guests, read my blog, browse through the books, or contact us for a chat. Goodbye for now.